There are a couple people that weren't able to make it. I don't know which part of the mandatory part they understand, but I guess we'll have to forgive them. Maybe they're sick or something. You never know. Anyway, and I always remember that back in the day when I had to go to meetings like this, and the person would get there and say, "Thank you all for being here." And we're like, "It's mandatory, dude. It's always there." You know what I mean? But not you. I mean, I know you all came here and were happy to hear me kick this thing off here to deliver. Anyway, thank you all. It's been a couple of years since we've been able to be together in person, and we got a lot of new faces. It's phenomenal. Also, a little bit different this evening. I'm excited. We have a motivational speaker who's a great guy. You're gonna love this. I think you're gonna be very impressed. And the fact that he happens to be a starting guard from the 1973 National Championship Notre Dame Fighting Irish, it's just a plus that I happen to, realize. If anybody's been in my office, you obviously realize that Notre Dame is the only thing that exists. God, country, and Notre Dame. Anyway, he'll cover all of it. Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. This again. I think it's been a long time. Like I said, it's been a couple of years. It's great to see everybody. It's a great chance to introduce everybody that's new here with the company. I think you're going to be thrilled by next year because there'll be even more people here next year. The company's been growing nicely. We all had that little flat period during the COVID experience. But all things said and done, we held our own, and we took a little while for everybody to adjust and so forth and so on. Our clients to get their feet back underneath them, but we're back on the growing side again. So it's phenomenal, right? A lot of new things going on in the company. Obviously, I think you're going to hear more and more. I know you've been hearing it from me for a couple of years with the new production facility, but I kept thinking it was going to be started a long time ago, but we are actually producing products. So you're going to hear about that as well tonight. And you're going to eat a lot of the products that are being produced. So you're going to get to try them all. This is a great opportunity. It's hard for us to get you all to get to try everything that we're creating, but this is a great opportunity for you to get to try it all. So, or not all of it, I should say, but a lot of it. And Michael and Sarah will tell you what you're eating and how it's produced and so on and so on. So a lot of great stuff. And I know you've heard me say it before, but I'll say it again. That is going to carry this company for the next 10 or 20 years, right? So I'll be a patient. I'm sure all of you will come visit me someplace. Obviously, Frank Grove just walked in. You're going to see him, probably one of those buildings sooner than me. And Eddie's ahead of me too. So listen, you're going to have a little rotation. You're going to have a rotation of people you got to go see. I hope Melissa's not here to tell me that I couldn't say that with HR, but we're walking. Oh, there she is. Oh, how about that? I'm sure I'm going to hear about it later. Anyway, thank you all very much. I hope you're going to love it tonight. The casino night's going to be a blast. And now I'm going to introduce the man of the hour, Mr. Frank Pomerico. He is a family friend. I met him when I was probably a freshman in high school when I first met him and his now wife. He's just a wonderful person, and I think you're gonna love having him motivate all of us to just have another cocktail when he's done. Hold on a second, Frank.
I don't know about anybody here, but I'm having a hard time keeping this on my jacket. It's difficult. It's a pleasure to be here. Really an exciting event for me to be here. I do remember Peter when he was a young boy, and his dad was a super guy to me, and his mom was very pleasant all the time to me. So this runs pretty deep, and I'm excited to be here. I'd like to thank Peter for inviting me to speak tonight. We had a great dinner with him and his wife, Patty, who's a lovely gal. You're a very lucky guy, Peter. She is a really sweetheart. And Kim, thank you for all your help. And Chad, thank you very much for putting stuff together for me. Now, it's a long time ago that I played at Notre Dame, 1970 through 1973. I walk my dogs on campus quite a bit. I have two dogs, a poodle, Bo, and a labradoodle, his son. So we walk around campus and kids will stop me and say, "Can I pet the dogs?" And I say, "Sure, you can pet the dogs." And I say, "What year are you?" They said, "I'm a sophomore." I says, "I was a sophomore here too, 50 years ago." And you can imagine that 50 years is a long time. But it was a great time, my experience there. And the thing that made it so great really was the idea that I was playing for a person who really cared about his players. You became a member of his family, not just a member of the team. His name was Ara Parsesian. And one time a guy interviewed me and said, what was it like playing for Ara Parsesian? I said, well, it was kind of like playing for royalty. He was our King Arthur and we were his knights. The guy paused and he said to me, boy, what a neat idea for a book. I says, yeah, I've been thinking about doing something like that. And I did. It took about 3 years to do. And it was a really beautiful experience. We interviewed people from Miami of Ohio, also people from Northwestern, and of course, people from Notre Dame. And the thing that kept coming up was the same qualities this guy had, of fairness, of being a hard worker and being very disciplined. These were all things that were very important as far as developing this book. A lot of times, though, when I think about my experience in Notre Dame, it's really something that I had to build within myself. This is something that everybody has an opportunity to reach for their goals. There really is a kingdom within our own minds. And that's something I think that we all need to look about. My name, again, like I said, is Frank Pomerico. I was a starting guard in 1971, 1972, and I was one of the captains in 73. I'm originally from New York City. I went to a Lady Grace grade school and St. Francis Prep. St. Francis Prep was near the Williamsburg Bridge. It was an all boys school, kind of like Mount Carmel is here on 63rd and Dante. Frank Lenti was a great friend of mine, but it was a great place to go to school. I'll get into that a little bit later. But my life changed really in February 2011, and I appreciate life so much more. The doctors found something inside of me that they said this needs to be fixed. So I went to see the specialist, and he says, you have an aneurysm inside your on your aorta north of your heart. And if it breaks, you got about maybe 5 minutes. I go, oh my goodness, this isn't good. Now here I am lifting weights and biking and working out as hard as I possibly can, not knowing I could possibly be killing myself. So he said, the operation is going to take anywhere from 10 to 15 hours. I go, I feel great. He says, you're not. If this thing breaks, you're going to be gone. Well, I had it done, and I appreciate life so much better. This is 11 years ago, and I feel great about just every day being alive. And I think people need to do that because you never know when you're going to get that tap on the shoulder and you're going to be gone. I mean, all those people that are depending on you every day, there'll be a big void. I just recently had a email that said the train of life, and you're on this train. And every time somebody passes, your mom, your dad, maybe your brother or sister or friends, they get off the train and that seat is vacant. Well, one of the things you want to do in life is enjoy the train ride as much as you can. So the people today now ask me, why are you still training so hard? I tell them I have 2 reasons. I have twin grandkids, Otto and Nina. And every day I'm alive, I want to spend as much time as I can with them. And the second reason is I want to really look good in that casket too. I want to be in shape. People say to me all the time, why are you training so hard? I say, I want to look good in that casket. Well, which is kind of a funny thing, but I do want to stay as healthy as I possibly can. And we all need to do that, not just physically, but also mentally too. One of the things that is so important about bosses and leaders, this is something that we talk about all the time. As coaches, I coached for 15 years at a high school, and there are some coaches that are like bosses. And what they do is they use people in order to get to the end means, whether it's gratifying their own popularity, or is it something where they want to see kids learn and mature? These are 2 different kinds of leaders. One's a boss, one is a leader. Ara Parsesian was a leader. He was somebody that cared about his people and somebody that wanted them to grow and be individuals that can go out and make a difference in the world. This is the most important thing. about being a leader. You got to shy away from being a boss because people can see through that. And if you want to really generate energy from people, is you give them part of ownership of what they're doing. And anytime you do that, you're going to get a greater input into the end results. There is a comparison, I believe, in running a football program and running a corporation. You think, how so? Well, I think through faith, I think through family, I think through education, I think through pride, discipline, and loyalty. We'll briefly touch on every one of these. But I think it's important that we know that these things are really great values to understand. And some of them are disappearing in our communities. I think as an individual, you have to ask yourself also, what are your dreams? How are you going to develop your goals to get to your dreams? When I was a teenager, I had this dream of playing at Notre Dame. Here I am, a tubby little 13-year-old boy, and my father says, boy, wouldn't it be great if someday you could go to Notre Dame? That stuck in my head. And I had this amazing drive to try to please my father about attaining a goal like playing at Notre Dame. It's almost like something you really can't get to. And you got to see if you can. You got to reach as high as you can to see if you can get to that goal. Now, coming from New York City, I'm in an Italian neighborhood, an Italian family. Everybody is really passionate about what they do. And I'm going to reach for the highest ring you can possibly get. The key was there was another Italian boy in our community that had gone to Notre Dame 3 years before me. His name was Larry DiNardo. And he was a mentor. He was somebody that set as an example. He did everything right. Larry was a tremendous athlete, but also he was a very mature person, academically valedictorian of the high school. So he had a lot of things going. He could have went to any college in the country, and he chose to go to Notre Dame. And why did he choose to go to Notre Dame? Because of Ara Parseghian. People make the difference in teams, in colleges, in companies. So if you're the most well-rounded company you can possibly be, you're going to be attractive to work with. And that's really important. You have integrity. You have honesty. That's becomes a thing that people can hang their hat on and depend about. So these questions, what is your plan? I developed a plan. I was going to work as hard as I could physically to get as big and as strong as I could. But I also had to get academically solvent as well. Pay attention to my grades, not get into trouble. In the 60s in New York City, there was a lot of ways to get in trouble. I mean, there was drugs around. There was obviously girls around. At an all boys school, it was a little tougher to get in trouble with a girl, though. So that wasn't a problem for me. But it was a time where you have to really hone in on your goals on what you wanted to do. You know, there was a book I read. It was called The Lonely Victory by Peter Habler. Now, Peter Habler was a guy, one of the last guys to climb Mount Everest without oxygen. Now, that's an amazing feat, just to climb it anyway. But he did it without oxygen. But the thing that he talked about that was so important is that you have to embrace the challenge of your goal as much as the actual summit, as actually getting to the summit. You have to feel every bit of the journey. You have to embrace and you have to enjoy it. And I did. I loved lifting weights. I used to lift with my father, with the kids at school. I used to lift on my own. I ran. I played handball. I played basketball, all to become a better athlete. So anything I could possibly do to get to my goal, I did. And it was never work. It never seemed like it was work. So if you have a project you're doing and it seems like, this is kind of a pain in the neck, you got to remember the ultimate goal is what you're after. And if you're into that, getting to that ultimate goal, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're going to embrace it and get to the top of that summit, so to speak. I'm originally, like I said, from New York City. I had to take a subway 45 minutes every day to get to high school. I had to take another subway 45 minutes every day to get to football practice. And then another subway for an hour to get home, to get to our dinners and then do homework. So it was a grind. But when you don't know any different, you just do it. And again, I didn't mind it because eventually it was going to get to me, hopefully get to me my goal, which was playing at the University of Notre Dame for Ara Parseghian. Playing for Notre Dame is pretty good, but playing for Notre Dame with Ara Parseghian as a coach is a really big thing. My mom, Mary Pomerico, Mary Gallo was her maiden name. She was a hot, fiery Italian woman. And if she loved you, I mean, you were on her side, that was great. But if you did anything against her, leg out. She was a lot worse than my father. And my father was a Marine, also a New York City detective. When he retired, he was a lieutenant in narcotics, big, strong guy. But I feared my mother worse than I feared my father. But she was a great woman and passed away way too soon. But she was somebody who used to always tell us, dream, Frankie, dream and dream big. Don't think anybody else is going to get there before you do. Dream and you can do it. If you dream and you get your goals together and your plan to get there, and she was involved in that. She made sure I was eating properly. She made sure that I was getting up on time. Everything we did as a family was helping me to get to my goals, which is huge. And my father, John Pomerico, he was a beautiful guy, a nice guy. I love my dad. He was my hero as I was growing up. He was a strong man. He was a weightlifter back in the days when people didn't lift very much. But he was somebody that was also very strict too. He wasn't somebody that would strap you, but you didn't want to mess with him. So I really admired him. And when he said, wouldn't it be great if you could go to Notre Dame? That really funneled my energy into getting to that point where I can get there. He used to always tell me, what starts here can really change the world. And you say, what does that really mean? Well, he used to always talk about doing the little things in life that eventually will become the big things. And the big things will get you to your goals. One of the things he used to be always a stickler about is, hey, clean up your room, make your bed. And you'd say, why? I mean, mom's going to do that. No, you do it. And the reason for it is that was the first task of the day. And every other thing you did during the day was another task that you had to accomplish. And another, and another. And if you're doing that and you're affecting other people by doing these little tasks, then you're going to be a better person for it. So for me, that was a great lesson on how to keep my dreams alive by doing the little things which would mushroom into the bigger things. I think that when I got to Notre Dame, one of the things that was so important for me is that Ara recognized a person that was detailed orientated, a person that was willing to fight for what he thought was a really important thing. And that was the thing that I think won me over to Ara, is that I was a lot like Larry DiNardo at that point, who did the same kind of things. But just to go back now to my high school at St. Francis Prep. Do you have that there, Chad? Okay. St. Francis Prep, as you can see, is a little building there. There was 900 kids crammed into that. Now, there was Franciscan brothers that were there. On the first day of school, Brother Williams says to the fathers and sons, I'm sitting right next to my father. He says, if we feel your son isn't doing the right thing and we whack him, if you don't like that, take him out of school today. My father turned to me and says, hey, I like this place. I go, oh boy, I'm in for a tough deal. But it wasn't. We loved the brothers. They did a great job in coaching us. They were always in our corner. It was us against the world. We had a brother Owen that was a great guy. And until he passed away, I used to talk to him every week. And Vince O'Connor is another guy who was our head coach. I think he was head coach at Notre Dame, at St. Francis Prep for 60 years. So he was a guy that really affected a lot of people. If you go to the next one here, Chad, Our Lady of Grace. When I see this picture of Notre Dame, that was my dream, to go to Notre Dame and be able to play football at Notre Dame. And at an 8th grader, that's where this all came about. And it was because of this game, Notre Dame against Michigan State in a famous 10-10 tie. Ara was in that game, and they blamed him for causing the tie because he wouldn't go for the bomb at that time. And he says, hey, our guys played very hard to get to this point. It was 10-0 at half for Michigan State. Notre Dame comes back and ties the game 10-10. But it was a famous game. Notre Dame was ranked number 1 at the end of the season. They beat Southern Cal that year like 51-0. But the key thing was that game. And he took a lot of grief for that. But my father felt that he was somebody that was very composed and very much focused on what he needed to do to win a national championship. And that's when he said to me, wouldn't it be great if you can play at Notre Dame? Well, the next one is of my high school buddies. The guy on the right there is Jerry Burns. He was a Secret Service agent for Ronald Reagan and also Bill Clinton, and I think George Bush as well, a real super guy. The guy next to him, the shorter guy, is John Basti. And the guy next to him is Brother Owen. The other guy on the far left is Phil Bracco, who sold jewelry for years. Good guy, passed away. But Brother Owen would always talk about, you don't have to have any talent to be on time. No talent to have work ethic, work as hard as you can. No talent to give a positive attitude. You don't have to have any talent to give effort. No talent to be passionate about what you're doing. By being coachable, by doing extra, by being prepared. All these things, when you think about it, you don't really need talent. You just have to have an inner drive to want to be able to reach your goals. And when that's the case, I mean, you're way ahead of the game. So there's so many people out there. When I think about Michael Jordan and that show, The Last Dance, I never realized how much this guy drug all those other players to win those championships. Here is a guy that was totally driven, and somebody who probably there was other NBA guys that had as much talent, but none of them could touch his desire to be a champion. And that's the thing that you have to have. Even if you have no talent, you still can be out there slugging it out with people. You may get beat, but at least you're trying. The next one, that's Vince O'Connor. My roommate's right in the middle there. And that was at a downtown athletic club in 2001, right after the World Trade Center happened. And Vince used to always talk about it takes no talent to be tough or even give 100%. Now I want to talk a little bit about, at Notre Dame, this picture here is the grotto. It's a replica of Lourdes. And you really don't have to be Catholic to appreciate this place if you're there. There's a real sense of peace there. And I think it goes through all religions. Even if you're Jewish, you can go there and feel a sense of peace there. Now, the reason why I'm talking about that is that this has to do with faith. And when I say faith, I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about, something outside of us. I'm talking about something that's inside our consciousness. Faith is really recognizing that there is a good force inside of us. Every positive thought and feeling is a light of what that force is. People laugh sometimes about Star Wars. They talk about the good force, the light force. I mean, that's all really something that's inside of us that we're choosing to go with the right thing to do. Every good deed we do is the force expressing itself through us. Every feeling of love and kindness is us getting a deeper understanding of how this good force dwells within us. Now, if you think about each individual person and how this can affect you on how you treat other people, it's a very important idea. The force is strong. The force is in our consciousness. And the force is something we need to embrace. Every undertaking we have, every goal we pursue is aided by the good force. So I believe this force that's out there helped me get to my goals at Notre Dame. No matter what religion you are, what race, what nationality, everyone knows the common things in life of love, kindness, caring, and all the basic needs of people. When you believe, you have to do it. You're the one that has to create the opportunities. There's going to be people, nobody's going to give you anything out there. You have to earn it. And there's a great saying in the Marine Corps that never given, always earned. And that's true. When I address people, sometimes I say, did you earn your shower today? They say, what are you talking about? I say, hey, did you work out? Because if you worked out, that means you earned taking the shower. And that's a pretty good thing. Ara is a person that recognized people that were hungry for success. Now, if you go to the next slide there, this was a fight back in 1971, Joe Frazier against Muhammad Ali. Now, a lot of you guys, gals, are a lot younger, don't remember this, but this was a vicious fight. This was 15 rounds. And Muhammad Ali was a talker. He was somebody that would want to get to somebody's head about how to beat them. Well, in the 15th round, Frazier hits him with a left hook that knocks him to the canvas. And everybody was stunned that he wasn't acting. He was on his back. And they asked him. And I don't know if I was necessarily a Muhammad Ali fan, but I liked what he said. They asked him, what were you thinking when you were on the canvas? He said, get up, get up, get up. So we're going to get knocked down in life in a lot of different ways. One of the ways could be our health. We have to go through an operation. Are you going to recover or are you going to just lay down? Maybe somebody gets divorced. Are you going to give up or are you going to go out and meet other people? These are all things that we can't give up. We have to keep going. The next one here is my picture of my family. I don't know if you got that one there. Yeah, there it is. That's my son, Tom. Tom has played football at the University of Michigan. He's also an artist. He just became a professor. I'm very proud of Tom. He struggled with the idea. He said, should I go get a job or should I do what I really want to do? I said, do what you really want to do. It'll never be like working. You'll have a life where you can't wait to get up in the morning and go to work. That's my wife next to my son. That's Eileen. Next to her is Lisa, my daughter, who graduated from Notre Dame. Then also got a master's degree from Loyola. That's my son-in-law, Nate, and that's me. Our families should be number one in our lives, for sure. Sometimes good friends are families, and that's important too. Families provide a structure that sometimes you can't get outside of the family. Manners, respect, responsibility, confidence, safety, comfort, integrity. These are all things that we have in our family, and also are things and values that are produced in teams, in companies. And these are things that if you have the basis as an individual in a family setting, it spills over into your work career, into your team, into your life, even into your community. So these are very important. Ara used these very much. You weren't part of his team, you were part of his family. And that, to me, was very important. This is a picture of our 1973 national championship team. I'm the guy number 56 in the middle there, next to 27 and 86. Those are the other captains, Dave Casper and Mike Townsend. If you look closely, you'll see I have a cast on my leg. I had ripped my ankle in half, missed the first 4 games that year, which was very disappointing. But I said, hey, either I'm going to lay down and not be productive, or I'm going to wake up and play the last half of the season. I played the last 7 games, and it was great. Now, here's a picture of Ara Parsesian. My mother used to think he looked like an actor. He was a good-looking man, and he was an eloquent speaker. He was somebody that when he came into the room and people didn't know who he was, you'd say, I don't know who that is, but I want to get to know him. He just had an aura about him that you felt good being around him. Now, he built his teams basically on pride, discipline, and loyalty. And when I say that, This next picture here is when we're going out to the field from the tunnel. And it's a great feeling, especially when I was a sophomore. This is the first time I've been out on the field with 59,000 people yelling and screaming. And I always knew where my folks were because they came to every game. And I give them a big wave. And we together enjoyed this experience of playing at Notre Dame because they helped me get there. So I had tremendous pride that I had worked so hard for. And when you have that kind of pride, you don't want to give it up. So you're going to do your best every game you're in, every transaction you have in a company. If you're working hard, you want to win. And you want it to be the best situation that it can be. The next picture is this fella here, number 72, is Jerry Donato. Jerry Donato is on the Big Ten Network now. Jerry and I grew up from the 5th grade together through high school. And then he went to your prep school after Notre Dame, and I came to Notre Dame first. So we were staggered a year. So in 1972 and 1973, we were the guards at Notre Dame. And I don't know how often they have two guys from the same grade school and the same high school. But Sister Jerome and Sister Imelda were praying like crazy that we'd win every game. So we felt we had a little extra boost from the nuns, that's for sure. But Jerry went on to become a head coach at Vanderbilt, also at LSU, and then at Indiana. And now took a job on the Big Ten Network and has been doing it for about 10 or 12 years, does a terrific job. That fella in the middle is Eric Pennick. This same play against Southern California, he broke one loose for 85 yards. If you have the book, you'll read about it. I did a whole chapter on that one game. When the publisher called me and they said, hey, the chapter's great, but you got to cut it down. We can't have 400-page book because most people that read athletic books don't read 400-page books. I says, okay. So we did. But I think we bring out that play. And the interesting thing about the play is that the coaches didn't see the opening, but the fans did. And they started hearing this roar when he bursted through the line. All of a sudden, he was out in the open and nobody was going to catch him. He was the fastest guy we had on the team, and he rambled 85 yards for a touchdown. It was quite a scene. I still get chills when I watch it on YouTube. It was a fun thing to be part of. The next one is that this is something that was very important for us. In 1972, our season ended. We played in the Orange Bowl, and we played against Nebraska. They killed us 40-6. So when you lose, it's not over. But when you quit, it's over. So we didn't quit. And that spring, we went on to work hard and thinking that if we can win one game next year, and then another, and then another, and then before you know it, we beat Southern Cal, and now we're into the back stretch of the season. We win them all. And we're up to play Alabama in the Sugar Bowl for the national championship. This next picture here is Tommy Clements, who's the quarterback coach for the Packers. Now, he's been there for 15 years. He was there with Brett Favre, and he went to a couple of Super Bowls together with them. But Tom was a tremendous quarterback for us, and he was captain the year after I left. But he was a tremendous quarterback. He also could have played point guard at North Carolina in basketball. He was a tremendous athlete. And we find out he was a very intelligent guy. He graduated at the top of his class at Notre Dame Law School. We played together in Canada. I played up there for 4. He played up there for 12. He's in their Hall of Fame. Tremendous individual, tremendous guy. But all the discipline that we had, everything that we had to find out about winning, we poured into those games. The watching of the film, the working out during the season, in the off season, by giving 100% in every game, by not arguing amongst each other. When things got tough, we just buckled down, and it became a great, great team. More of a great team than the great talent. This next picture, this is what Notre Dame looks like this year in November and December. I mean, there was a lot of snow there in December and in November. I'm sure we're going to have a little bit more of this in February and March too, but it's a beautiful place to be at and to look at. But again, it's only as good as the people that are there. If you're there when an Arapar sees you, it's a great place to be. If you're there with a coach that's maybe not as popular or you're not learning as much stuff from, then it's not as great a place. However, the kids that go to school there are beautiful kids. And when I say that, they all have an underlining theme of wanting to make a difference in the world. They all want to do great things in their lives. Now, this pass you'll see here, I think we'll go one more there, Chet. Well, no, I misplaced here. The one about Tommy Clements throwing out of the end zone there, number 2. Do you have that one? No, go over there, that one there. Tommy Clements, in this game, the lead changed 7 times. I mean, if it was played today, people would say, oh my God, this is one of the greatest games they've ever seen. It was really the North against the South. It was the Catholics against the Baptists. It was Ara against the Bear. I mean, they were really good. They were ranked number 1 in the country. And they wouldn't replace 1 or 2 guys in a exchange of the backfield. They would put a whole new backfield in, quarterback, fullback, halfbacks. They had so much talent. And we stopped them. We stopped them for 0 yards, I believe, in the first quarter. Comes down to a final 2 minutes and 40 seconds. We have a 3rd and 8 from our 3-yard line. And Tommy Clements throws this pass out of the end zone to get us a first down, and we run out the clock and win the national championship. The thing that happened there is that Bear Bryant came into our locker room. I saw him. I said, what is he doing here? And he congratulated Tommy Clements, who was the MVP of the game, and also congratulated Ara and some of the other players too. But I thought that was a lot of class that he did that. Now, the next page we go here, that's, let's go one more. Nope, I think we go the other way, maybe. One more up. That's, no, we'll lose it out. Okay. The one with, there's one there with Regis Philbin. Regis was a very nice man. He was somebody that was a Notre Dame grad. And I asked him if I had met him in Las Vegas about 2002. And I called him. I said, would you be willing to do a forward for Ara Parseghian? He said, absolutely. I'll do anything for Ara. In 1964, Notre Dame got beat by Southern Cal, and he had promised Regis he would do an interview. And even though we lost the national championship by losing that game, he still did the interview with Regis, and Regis never forgot that. So he says, I'd be happy to do the forward. And he was a very nice guy. Not quite as silly as he is on camera when he was alive, but he was a very nice and decent man. I liked him very much. The next page there is Lessons on Leadership about Ara Parseghian. That is the book, as some of you have it now. The book was a very fun thing for me to do. It was something a little bit outside of my expertise, but it was fun to do. I loved to interview people, and it was all a positive in talking about Ara Parseghian. Just a little side note. I talked to Ara shortly before we were going to publish the book. I said, I'd like to interview you about the book. He says, yeah, I heard you were doing something. He says, I don't want you to write the book. I said, why not? He says, well, there's been enough written about me. You don't need to write anything more about me. I said, Coach, it's done. We're going to do it. He says, I don't want you to do it. I says, well, this is the first time I ever did this. I said, Coach, we're doing it. I went against his wishes. I said, we're doing it anyway. I said, we'll donate some of the money to the your foundation. He had a medical foundation for Niemann-Pick type C. But he always talked about, in his leadership skills, he talked about high expectations for everybody, honesty, communication, build team of assistants that you can trust, being prepared, working hard all the time, preparing in all aspects of life, in communication, in being able to present yourself, your ideas, to execute, to be positive, always the cup being half full, not empty, being resilient, not quitting, always having teamwork, never think you can do it all by yourself. Motivation is a great thing, but discipline really gets you through life. If you're disciplined, your motivation doesn't have to be as great. You will get up and do it every day. And that's important. The spirit of Notre Dame and the passion of the student and the alumni and the Subway alumni is enormous. There's an underlining theme of really trying to make a difference in the world, and that's great. I think as a knight for Era Parsesian, playing for Era is like playing for royalty. I mentioned this before. We all felt like we were kings and his knights in his kingdom. His standards were high. Era wanted leaders with character to affect the world beyond just football. Now, if you look at this here, this sign wasn't there in 1973, but it's a good sign to think about. Not just playing football, but to live your life, to do the right thing and play like a champion and do stuff like a champion every day. How to be a knight. Work hard, be a team player, be excited about your life. Believe me, if it's going to be taken away from you, you get excited about living. Be disciplined. Find everything you can to reach your goals. Be prepared. Be friendly. Be warm. Be inviting. Be alert. Watch the news. Know what's going on. Be able to decipher what's the BS and what's the real stuff. Have manners. These are important things for young kids for sure. Be physically fit. And I'm not saying you have to be Mr. Atlas, but I think you should walk. Everybody should at least walk and be able to stay as fit as they possibly can and be spiritually based. And when I say that, I don't mean that, we're going to church every day. What I mean is that you're making a difference in other people's lives. Actively trying to make a difference in somebody else. At least do one thing for somebody else every day that they can't repay you with. And sometimes it'll be 2 things or 3. And then if that catches on, just think what the world would be like if everybody's doing something for somebody else. There's a statue at Notre Dame. I pass it every day. It's of Ara Parsesian. We have no breaking point was one of his key things. We have no breaking point in competition on the field or in life and the values we hold so dear. So you never give up. These are the captains. Dave Casper, Hall of Famer, college and pro. Mike Townsend, All-American. That's me there on the right. When you're the company, when you have a company, the people are the company. So remember that. If you're dealing with people, be classy. Do the right thing. Don't always think about, I got to get that person more than I'm getting. Try to share the success. People will want to work with you all the time. Quickly here, I'm going to get this wrapped up here. The values of the Knights at Era: to serve, make a difference in people's lives, to strive for excellence on and off the field, not to yield to the dark side of life, but to continue to head to the light, the positive side of life, and to provide hope. And what do I mean by hope? Believe in that spirit, that good spirit that's inside of everybody. No matter how bad it gets or how bad it is, you're going to make it, no matter what. And patience and persistence every day in doing the right thing will get you to the goals. Now, this is 50 years ago, and you're going to see what 50 years looks like now. But first, you're going to see here, as time passes, the first 10 years of our reunion, we was talking about how we could still play with these guys. 20-year reunion, we started talking about our kids. The 30-year reunion, we started to talk about how our knees and shoulders and necks were getting sore and had to be, some of the stuff had to be replaced. At the 40-year reunion, which was almost 10 years ago now, we started realizing how important reunions are. Hips and knees are replaced, shoulders repaired. There are also teammates that now are starting to pass. We cherish our time left on earth. We enjoy our grandkids. But once we were the kings of college football, which is hard to believe when you look at a 70-year-old person and think that guy was a very aggressive person that did great things on the football field. It didn't matter if you were a starter or a prep guy. I interviewed them all. We were all family. This is what 50 years looks like, guys. If you go to the next one, Chet. This is what 50 years looks like. Ara's passed now. That was about 5 years ago he passed. This was probably our 45th reunion. But in concluding here, I just want to say, as one of Ara's Knights, I believe that in the midst of all the darkness and confusion of the world, we have a chance to change people to see the positive sides of life. To know that each person has a warm light that's inside of them. Each of us do. That is looking for direction and encouragement. And sometimes we can give it to them. We can give them confidence and we can give them hope. We can give it to them, and we must forever keep the dark side of life away from us. Anyone can be one of Ara's knights. If you have the core values I talked about, you will make great decisions in your life. You'll be a positive force, a voice in the world that is hungry for common sense. Don't we know that now, the way things are going? You know, when you hear some of the bizarre stuff that they're talking about. Common sense that makes people productive and help them find their purpose in life. Everybody needs direction. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for having me and listening to this old knight talk about his experience with Ara Parseghian. Thank you very much.
He didn't ask me to do this with my guy. Carol! All right, thank you very much. I mean, again, I think, again, if you can agree, you know,